Welcome to CrossFit News, the place where Dave Castro likes to start fake beefs and pick and choose among his favorite content creators. Then just sort of sit back and watch everything crash and burn. The ultimate troll. Sort of funny now that I think about it. All that talk about me trying to take out Jenny Dent's updates, and really the genius Dave Castro slid right under the radar with an attempted coup d'etat on Hiller. Dave Castro was the one truly engaged in clandestine warfare. Amazing. The news is kind of a dangerous place to be. I've been in some trouble. I should probably get out of here, actually, now that I think about it. I got 5, maybe 6 quarter videos, 1/6 videos, 23% of a video all stitched together. I want to talk about the madness at Mayhem and Rich Froning on the Coffee Pods and Wads podcast, as well as Facundo on Glinton Things on the Savan channel. I want to talk about that video called The Rise and Fall of CrossFit that Hiller already ripped to pieces. But I want to talk about the comment section, the most ridiculous comment section in the history of comment sections.
What you just said.
I heard that CrossFit will shred your body to pieces and then you'll get rabies and die. I'm going to give an update on Dent's updates. I'm going to give an update on Jenny. Jenny was on Glinton Things, and our thing got brought up, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about in the box office in the WFP, but first, introducing John Woolley. Oh yeah, I heard about him. He's that woke guy, right? Never takes a side. He's the guy who does memes and is bald. I just don't see how that's relevant.
I thought the vendor village was kind of lame. Sounded like that carried over. It felt a little off from an athlete perspective. Like it felt a little off.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
When you're at the games and you watch people compete, it feels like they'll do anything for first. And there were times during Sure Stop 1, I'm like, I think they're phoning this in a little bit. It's just not the same vibe. And that's what I got out of it mostly. Like once they have to choose, it's going to hurt CrossFit. And I just don't believe that to be true. I don't believe that the fittest people on earth, the best, want to compete in what's viewed currently as a lesser league. Name one person that would choose to go play for the Canadian Football League over the NFL given the option. Canadian Football League.
Canadian Football League. Canadian Football League.
Damn!
Champions go where other champions are. It's that simple. CrossFit owns the space right now. I can't see someone who can actually win a championship wanting to compete for anything other than fittest on earth. It's legacy, if that's how it works. Well, I mean, I would hope they were, farther ahead than CrossFit was at this point. All the people running it came from CrossFit. CrossFit has the benefit of doing now is watching WFP make mistakes and taking notes and going, I'm not going to do that. And so when I was at the games and I saw Dave, that dude spent the entire day talking to athletes, the entire day. But he very clearly loves athletes. And he got a lot of respect for me on that day. If my third option is I have to get up and come downstairs to log into this computer so I can watch your show, guess which one I'm not doing? They're basically creating this free farm club of young athletes that will help CrossFit at no cost to them. Let's be fair, the business was born out of being pissed off at CrossFit.
Was it?
Yes. That's a very fair complaint from the side that prefers CrossFit over WFP.
Now that seems like a man that... Why are my eyes... Now that seems like a man who is well rested. Speaking of rest, I've got samples back in Thursday.com, a bunch of people that I was supposed to meet up with at the games and I missed. There's some people in my DMs. We're ready to go now. Thursday.com, code KIR. I have got fantastic feedback on the samples and by people who have purchased it, which makes me really happy because I've always loved it. And to hear that other people think that it's great as well and that they're getting good recovery scores with their devices, that makes me happy. Hit me up on Instagram and I will get them out to you. Well, look, to be fair, I basically just took every single clip that I like and wretched it from its overall context. Nonetheless, John Woolley was pretty freaking based
with a bouncer
for being on a show run by two people paid by the WFP. Is this true?
This is true. This is blasphemous.
Or a channel, I should say, run by those people, hosted by people who work there as media. I'm not sure that anybody was expecting that. I'm not sure that Mesa was expecting that. For the record, I like them both. I think it's extremely entertaining. I love having people in the space who have different thoughts and opinions. But it's interesting because for Wooly, he's always been seen as somebody who rides the middle as a fence rider, but to himself, he's somebody who's really trying to be unbiased. And in this video, it looks like that's exactly what he's doing. He says he likes the WFP, he attended the first one, but on the other hand, he kind of just calls things for what it is. And from a business perspective, he talked about a lot of things that I hadn't really considered or heard before. Just that it's an opportunity for CrossFit to look at how they run competitions, see what they do wrong, what they do right, and to learn from it. And if they're not a real threat to CrossFit, then that would be true. It would be a good opportunity. I'm not convinced that they're a real threat to CrossFit in the sense that the WFP is going to have longevity and somehow compete with the CrossFit Games.
Prestige worldwide.
What I'm concerned with is that it can cause enough injury with their blank check, pulling away athletes, maybe not intentionally, but still causing some division at a time where we really need more people to be doing CrossFit so that the base is bigger. Once again, like a broken record, more people doing CrossFit. So there's an actual demand for the sport. And I think Mesa and I just have a fundamental disagreement on the way that we look at the world. Because when we look at this clip,
that WFP pushes CrossFit to have to offer better things for the athletes to exist.
But why?
We look at someone like Pat Vellner, who has a family, who has kids, like, if he doesn't podium, how's he providing?
About making sure that people get paid and taken care of and athletes, that is just mind-blowing to me. Who cares? Who cares? What about the janitor working 16 hours a day? About the person flipping fries at McDonald's because they got an IQ of 92 and they're doing what they can? I don't care about people getting paid more for the sake of getting paid more. That makes no sense. To think that anyone is owed anything, we need to step back and look at the substance behind that. Why should they be getting treated better? Now, I submit to you that if there is a huge demand and there's some person up top pocketing $99.9 million and the athletes make up 0.01% of that, and some sport is doing fantastically, but the athletes are getting pennies, in that case, I would be on your side. There is no money in CrossFit. What they're getting paid in the WFP even is just because of the credit card. It's not profitable. The CrossFit Games isn't profitable. Economically, supply and demand. I'm really curious what Mesa thinks about the WNBA. I don't know if she spoke on it. If I remember, I'm going to ask on their next show, or if she sees this, maybe she'll bring it up, because maybe that's where the disagreement is. I would say that it's absolutely the most asinine, completely backwards thing in the world to pay the WNBA out of the NBA's money. There's just not a demand for it. It's not profitable. If people will pay for something, then you get a cut of that. The only time it's unjust is when somebody is hoarding it all and giving like none of it to the athletes. Right now in CrossFit, the cut that they get a percentage of is like zero. If you are looking to make money as an athlete and you do CrossFit and you can do any other sport, you should do that. You should go where you can make more money, because CrossFit probably demands the most and gives you the least. But that doesn't mean you should get paid more. It just means it's a harsh reality. The problem with what we're doing that I keep saying is that 3, 4, 5 years from now, none of this is doing anything to build CrossFit or the demand. Nobody's going to be watching people do burpees on TV. You're talking about the athletes getting taken care of and paid and treated a certain way without any economic context. So we kind of already knew this, but Pedro asked the question pretty directly about Malik, and Rich answered pretty directly.
You know, there's some red flags. I don't know his business interests. The more and more we had some discussions, I did not like the way that operated. Poor communication, not entirely having the whole picture, I guess, when asked. You learn a lot about, what you think somebody is going to do or how you think somebody is in a short term, right? And I don't think it's wrong to, like, after you have some data points, to be like, oh, maybe I was wrong, like.
Definitely feel validated about this. The reason being that I made a video.
MoveMax, you are the Albany, New York of potential CrossFit buyers.
After the podcast came out, everybody was talking about Malik essentially throwing Rich under the bus or saying that Rich is a threat to CrossFit.
He's coming out and he's railing on the GOAT.
I was looking into some other things.
How does MoveMax, which very clearly is based on long-time domains, buy CrossFit, which is CrossFit, without wanting to change CrossFit?
And just the more you look at the whole situation, everything looks shady.
CrossFit does not make you lose weight.
Did you forget the base of the pyramid?
I don't like the fact of, like, hey, CrossFit doesn't work. We got to do these long workouts. Like, if we're really getting down to what the methodology is and you don't even believe in the methodology, then what is the, like, why do you want this thing?
It's like the guy doesn't even like CrossFit.
Because I don't want to lower my lifestyle. I like eating. I like walking. I like cycling. I like rowing. So I do a gentle activity, zone 2 or zone 1. That's it. My philosophy. That's what I'm trying to sell.
And then you start to wonder, why was I excited about this guy? And that's where the key comes in. That is what CrossFit does not want to underestimate, which I'll talk about a little bit more, but the initial, say, 100 affiliates maybe you'll lose if Rich de-affiliates, maybe 200, 300 over time, who knows, is rather small, but Rich's overall influence can cause a huge disruption depending on what he chooses to do. Maybe one of the only people who can cause this kind of disruption. I'm going to give 2 case studies, essentially, on why Rich's influence shouldn't be underestimated, and they involve our reaction to things. Case study number 1, Malik. When you look back at things, you realize this guy was doing his fonts in Comic Sans. He was looking for a C-level CIO or whatever through his Instagram stories. He's never done the CrossFit Open, posts sort of weird stuff. He's doing double Chad. I know people have mentioned he likes to drink. He's mentioned he likes to drink. Now, there was all this stuff was really out there. Why didn't we look into it? Why were we excited, a lot of people, about Malik? And there was only one answer to that question: because he had Rich Froning's endorsement. This is the power of Rich Froning's influence. I'm going to mention the second case study about Rich's influence and why CrossFit would do well not to underestimate it in a moment. All right, so Glint and Things have this thing that they do on the Savan podcast, and they have Jenny Dense updates on there, I think every other Sunday. They had a surprise guest. It was Facundo. First off, Jenny is a beast.
Did it go through? Did it not go through? Are things still being done? Is there more bidders on the table? So
you're telling me that Malik is kind of buying CrossFit or something like that?
She doesn't have a live podcast per se, but she is most certainly not afraid to ask direct questions.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of think he's the
okay.
The one.
No. Well, my telephone. Sorry, guys. It's just that at this moment, I really don't know anything official or anything that that is worth saying or will be appropriate to say.
And judging by what was essentially a non-answer, I can only come to the conclusion that it is exactly what we think it is. Malik still is the guy. Probably has some investors or private equity involved too, if I had to guess. Basically exactly what Rich was talking about.
If he takes over, is he now in that bracket of, I don't want to be involved if he owns it?
I mean, it would be tough.
If it's someone like, say, Dave or, I don't know, Nicole or someone who's been around and has seen it and done it, would you then be like, all right, I'll have a talk about it and see what happens? Or is it like more cut and dry than that for you?
Cut and dry.
So
private equity purchases it, or Malik or whoever you don't like. Is it like they purchased it on the Tuesday, confirmed, and then on Wednesday morning the like word CrossFit is being taken down off the front of Mayhem building? Like is it that serious a situation?
I think we are doing some stuff internally to be ready for anything.
This is something that I really think is going to be a reality. The initial loss of affiliates, whatever number it is not going to be substantial, but over time, this could be a problem. And even Rich says that it's better under one banner, which I always say. That's one of the reasons I'm not all about the WFP. If CrossFit's base needs to grow, it is better to do that under a well-functioning HQ, which they haven't always been. And that's why, despite all their mistakes, Rich would still rather it go in that direction and have them be under HQ. But if they go through another bad ownership or an owner that he doesn't trust or he's not aligned with, he's going to go a different direction. Here's the case study, and you can ask yourself the same question. What you thought about what Rich said. Check this out. When Ben Bergeron or Will Morad says, hey, we don't really like what CrossFit's doing, we're going to do our own thing, everybody's up in arms. People make videos. People are like, you're a snake, you're a traitor. We've seen it 1,000 times. Rich comes out and in a manner says the same thing, and he's straightforward about it. He just says, I'll be out. Dang. So we've got this way that we feel about Ben Bergeron or about Will Morad. But how did you feel about Rich saying this? Were we up in arms? Were we angry? I know I wasn't. I sat back and said, I got to think about this. What does this mean? Definitely wasn't the typical reaction if we saw somebody who's loyal to CrossFit suddenly say, I might be out. Wow. That is power and influence. That is traceable. Rich Froning has such an influence in the CrossFit space that he can come out and flat out say, I will leave CrossFit. Say all these things that we would rip somebody else for, and nobody's really gone after him. We've talked about what does this mean? What would this look like? Maybe there's been minor criticisms. I don't know. But nobody has come out and straight up opposed him. That's how much credibility he's built. So if CrossFit doesn't see that, and aren't talking to him, I don't think that's a good choice. I hope they're not just looking at the couple hundred affiliates that they may lose initially, and they're thinking about the power involved in the fact that nobody in the space really cared that Rich said what he did. Nobody's up in arms, and that when he did seem to almost approve of Malik, everybody was behind it. That's the type of influence that could build another CrossFit. Still not easy. Still need the right people around you. Still need money, still need a good business plan, still need time, but that's the type of thing that could legitimately compete with CrossFit. I would want Rich on my side with whoever the new ownership is. All right, next up. Well, Facundo decided to flip the tables a little bit, and he said something like, hey, Jenny, I'm going to ask you a direct question. How about that? And she's like, okay. And I was like, oh, this should be good. And then...
So I see that our friend Keeping It Real is on the comment.
Oh, is he? Is he in the comments? Ask away.
Did you guys solved any misunderstanding or troubles or incompatibility?
Kiss and make up.
No! No! No!
It was just a leisure Sunday, and I was watching a podcast, and then Facundo's got to go and do that. All right, here's the deal. Jenny and I had an hour conversation last Sunday, if this is releasing on Tuesday or Wednesday, 9 or 10 days ago, and she had watched the full video, and she had some concerns, maybe one main concern. It's hard to get specific without saying things that will cause another back and forth, so I'm going to try not to do that. It was a good conversation. It seemed sincere, and we fought. I mean, there was some fighting, and what would be insincere is probably if there was no fighting. We both made videos, and we both disagreed with each other about various points. But we did get into some specifics, and at some point, I think there was some productivity towards the end of the phone call. I don't want to speak for Jenny. This is my view of this phone call. So one specific instance of an open score situation, me and Jenny spoke about in a little bit of detail. I don't think we actually said the names involved, but we talked about some of the wording, and there was some disagreement on maybe intent, words, semantics. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I called her a liar. That was the one problem that she had. I think I assumed the worst intent when I made the video, but I also assumed intent, and I can't possibly know someone's intent. Even if I don't agree with her, not a liar. And if she's not a liar, then she's not liable either. If it seems like a contradiction that I can say that I don't think she's a liar, and that I still disagree with her on certain points. It just is what it is. I respect Jenny. I don't love the situation. I think we're definitely on the same side overall with the things that we talk about and our beliefs about CrossFit being awesome. I like Jenny, and I've always liked Jenny. And that's about all I have to say about that. And that's about, it just sounded like Forrest Gump. Jenny! And that's about all I had to say. Yeah. Is that a Forrest Gump quote?
And that's all I had to say about that.
Well, we're out of time. No dumbest comments section ever. Maybe next time. This is abrupt. I've never been good with goodbyes. So